hypocrites going to hell. And that's what the Lord said. And there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's the same type of activity that the Lord described that's going to take place in the pit of hell. Right. Hypocrites. For pretending to want to work. Looking for the glory of the work, but not the service of the work. It's going to be appointed their portions with the hypocrites. You do know what hypocrites do, don't you? They look like everybody that's a child of God. But on the inside, they're a long way from being a child of God. Jesus in Matthew 23 said they're like whitewashed graves. They look good on the outside. He said, but if you pop the top on the casket, ain't nothing in there but a bunch of dead men's bones. You got some of us, y'all look good this morning, but there's some of us that look good on the outside that are dead and decaying spiritually on the inside. When it comes to the work of the Lord must come first. Luke chapter 17, beginning of verse number 7, let me show you how you should always think of your service to the Lord. Luke chapter 17, beginning of verse number 7, Lord says, but which of you having a servant, plowing or feeding cattle, will say unto him by and by, when he is come from the field, go and sit down to meat. You going to tell your servant, because he's tired from the field, go ahead and sit down and eat? He says, of course not. Verse 8, and would rather say unto him, make ready wherewith I may sup, and gird thyself, and serve me, till I have eaten and drunken, and afterward thou shalt eat and drink. What is the Lord teaching here? The work of the Lord must come first. You are a servant. And as a servant, you understand your responsibility is to serve even if you tired. You're never too tired to serve. Jesus, even if he come in from the field, is a master. Don't let himself stay hungry and tell the servant, you go ahead and eat, and after you eat, I eat. He said, of course not. He gonna tell that servant, clean yourself up, change your clothes, serve me, then after I'm done, then you can eat. Y'all seen this? Service is full of self-sacrifice. You don't put yourself and your own desires before the work of God. You are his servant. And as his servant, your whole life's mission ought to be to serve him. Therefore, Jesus concludes it saying like this. Even in verse 9, he says, does he even thank the servant because he did the things which were commanded him? Lord said, I troll not. In other words, we would say, of course not. He don't even tell the servant, thank you. Some would think that's ungrateful. But you're a servant. Amen. And if you're a servant, the master ain't got to thank you for doing what he told you to do. Hello in here. That's a part of our problem. That's the reason why so many people religiously follow the Lord for what they can get from the Lord. You follow me? There are a lot of health and wealth ministries religiously that teach folk do this and the Lord will do that. Put this or pray this or send this and the Lord will do this. They try to obligate God because of their service to him. Jesus shows us just the opposite. He said even when you do what's commanded of you, God ain't gonna thank you for doing what he told you to do. In verse number 10, he says, so likewise when ye shall have done all those things which were commanded of you, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do. I ain't do no praise. I ain't do no thanks. I've only done that which was my duty to do. Don't need you to put my name in the bulletin. Don't need you to hang my name up in lights and pat me on the back and give me all these kind of accolades. The Lord will reward me when I rise up in the last day and hear him say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over few things. Not then, but now I'll make you rule over me. When it comes to the work of the Lord must come first. Then finally this morning, the work of the Lord must glorify him. Matthew chapter 5, and beginning at verse number 14. We are indicated here on our status as children of God. The Bible tells us we are the salt of the earth. He said, but if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? I looked at that and I became intrigued over the fact that the common crystallite compound of salt by nature is salty.
Yes, sir.
And even Jesus says, if ever an occasion arises where the salt loses its ability to be salty, it ceases to be salt. So that's the reason we call it salt. Because it's salt, which means it has the inherent ability to change the taste of something. And if it ever loses its ability to be a change agent, he said it ain't good for nothing but to be thrown out and trodden under the foot of men. Jesus continues on by saying in verse 14, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle, put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick. Then give it light unto all that in the house. Let your light so shine before me, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. In other words, the work of the Lord must glorify him. There will not ever be a time you got your hands to the plow and looking for glory for yourself. The work of the Lord must glorify him. That's how Moses missed the promised land. God said to him, you didn't seek to sanctify me in the eyes of the people. You caused the people not to see my glory by your actions. You caused the people not to be able to see my power by your frustration. And I thought I ought to tell you this morning, my brothers and sisters, just as Moses missed the promised land because he didn't do what God said like God said, you yourself will mess around and miss heaven trying to impress men and unimpressing God. I would rather be hated by men and pleased with by God than to ever have God look down upon me and to call me an unprofitable servant. I would rather have my relationship right with God and forsake the accolades of men. Because one thing about the accolades of men, they won't last long anyhow. Man will praise you as long as you're doing what he wants you to do. At the moment you change, the same man who lifted you up would be the same man that'll tear you down. And so only what you do for Christ will last. When you understand that the work of the Lord must come first. When you understand that the work of the Lord must glorify him, you do more than just see the